Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jasodanandanam Brajajanaranjan Jasodanandanam Brajajanaranjan Jamunatira Vanachari
Shri Srimad Abhayacharanarinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON Vibhiti Founder Acharya Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prasharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashata Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. May I please have the Bhagavatam? I don't have the Bhagavatam. Sorry. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nashtaprayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavati Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. So this morning we are reading from Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 71, entitled The Lord Travels to Indraprastha. Today we shall be reading text 33 or 31 until 36. Yes, the text 31 until 36. I believe text 36 is written on the board and perhaps we could recite that together, but I'll read the others before. Shamsikta Vartmakarinam Madagandhatoyash Chitradvaja Kanaka Torana Purna Kumbhai Mrishtambhirnava. Okay, this is a different. Samsikta Vartma Karinam Madagandhatoyash Chitradvajay Kanakatorana Purna Kumbhai Mrishtambhirnavadukula Vibhushanashak Gandhai Nirbhyuktibhischa Virajmanam Utipta Deepa Balivi Pratisadmajala Niryata Dhupa Ruchiram Vilasatpatakam Murdhanya Hema Kalasai Rajatoru Shringai Jushtam Dadarsha Bhavanai Kuru Rajadhama. Translation. The roads of Indraprastha were sprinkled with water perfumed by the liquid from the elephants' foreheads and colorful flags. Golden gateways and full water pots enhanced the city's splendor. Men and young girls were beautifully arrayed in fine new garments, adorned with flower garlands and ornaments, and anointed with aromatic sandalwood paste. Every home displayed glowing lamps and respectful offerings, and from the holes of the latticed windows drifted incense, further beautifying the city. Banners waved and the roofs were decorated with golden domes on broad silver bases. Thus Lord Krishna saw the royal city of the king of the Kurus. Text 33. Praptam nishamya naralochana panapatram autsukya vishalita kesha dukula bandha sadyo vrishya griha karma patim shatalpe drashtum yayur yuvatayasma narendra marke. Sorry, I missed the purport to the previous verse. Purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace Abhayacharanarinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The purport reads as follows. Srila Prabhupada adds in this connection, Lord Krishna thus entered the city of the Pandavas, enjoyed the beautiful atmosphere, and slowly proceeded ahead. So now I shall read the translation to text 36. When the young women of the city heard that Lord Krishna, the reservoir of pleasure for human eyes, had arrived, they hurriedly went onto the royal road to see him. They abandoned their household duties and even left their husbands in bed, and in their eagerness, the knots of their hair and garments came loose. Text 34. Tasmin susankula ibavashvaratha dvipavi Krishnam sabharyam upalabhya grihad diruddha Nayo vikirya kusumay manasopaguhya Suswagatam vidadhur utspaya vikshitena. Translation. The royal road, being quite crowded with elephants, horses, chariots, and foot soldiers, the women climbed to the top of their houses, where they caught sight of Lord Krishna and his queens. The city ladies scattered flowers upon the Lord, embraced him in their minds, and expressed their heartfelt welcome with broadly smiling glances. Purport. Sridhar Swami comments that the ladies communicated through their affectionate glances their eager inquiries as to the comfort of Lord Krishna's trip, and so on. In other words, in their ecstasy, they intensely desired to serve the Lord. Text 35. Uju striyapati niriksha mukunda patnis Tarayato dupasaha kim makaryam amubhi Yachakshusham purusham olirudarahasa Leela valoka kalayot savam matanoti. Translation. Observing Lord Mukunda's wives passing on the road like stars accompanying the moon, the women exclaimed, "What have these ladies done so that the best of men bestows upon their eyes the joy of his generous smiles and playful sidelong glances?" Now the text for today is text 36. Please recite. Tatra Tatropasangamya Paura Mangala Parnaya Chakru Saparya Krishnaya Shreni Mukhya Hitaina Saha Hataina Saha Tatra Tatropasangamya Paura Mangala Parnaya Chakru Saparyam Krishnaya Shreni Mukhya Hataina Saha Tatra Tatropasangamya Paura Mangala Parnaya Chakru Saparyam Krishnaya Shreni Mukhya Hataina Saha. I don't know, do we recite here as a repetition? Do we recite? Okay, if anyone would like to please chant.
Tatra tatra pasangamya Paura mangala panaya Chakru saparshyam krishnaya Srini mupya hataina saha
Tatra tatro pasangamya Paura mangala panaya Chakru sapayam krishnaya Srini mukta hataina saha
Vaishnavis.
Tatra tatro pasangamya
translation. Thank you. Tatra tatra, in various places, upasangamya, approaching, paura, citizens of the city, mangala, auspicious offerings, panaya, in their hands, chakru, performed, saparya, worship, krishnaya, for Lord Krishna, shreni, of occupational guilds, mukhya, the leaders, hata, eradicated, ena saha, whose sins. So the translation reads as follows. In various places, citizens of the city came forward, holding auspicious offerings for Lord Krishna. And sinless leaders of occupational guilds came forward to worship the Lord. Perhaps we can also repeat the translation together. In various places, citizens of the city came forward, holding auspicious offerings for Lord Krishna. And sinless leaders of occupational guilds came forward to worship the Lord. So the purport reads as follows. Srila Prabhupada writes, while Lord Krishna was thus passing on the road, at intervals, some of the opulent citizens who were all rich, respectable, and freed from sinful activities presented auspicious articles to the Lord just to offer him a reception to the city. Thus they worshipped him as humble servitors. Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamadam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Gunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhavitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pisthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Satarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktyavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Namo Mahavadanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namaha Nilachala Nivasaya Nityaya Paramatmane Balabhadra Subhadrabhyam Jagannathaya Te Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Jayatam Surato Pangur Mamamanda Matirpati Matsarvasya Padamboja Radha Madhumashmana Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadrumadha Shmiratnagar Singhasanasto Shriman Radha Shira Govinda Deva Prestalipi Manam Smarami Shriman Rasara Sarambhi Vamsi Vata Sata Sata Karshanrena Swaner Gopi Gopinatha Shriyastunam Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the text and translation once again. Tatra tatropasangamya pauramangalapānaya chakrusaparam krishnaya shreni mukhya hatainasa. Translation. In various places, citizens of the city came forward holding auspicious offerings for Lord Krishna, and sinless leaders of occupational guilds came forward to worship the Lord. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Before I begin, I would humbly like to seek the blessings and offer my obeisances unto the lotus feet of all the assembled Vaishnavas, and especially the senior devotees, so that I may be able to perform this devotional service primarily for my own purification. So we see it's a very interesting part here in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 71, and especially in this part we see how Krishna is leaving and he is going towards Indraprastha. And I was thinking while reading this that sometimes, and also I have a tendency to speak fast, so if I go fast, please interrupt me. Yes, that's also one of my other problems. Not very fond of the mic. So yes, we see that Krishna is now advancing towards Indraprastha, and one may think that, oh, so many details, why are these so many details important? And one may even find it boring that, okay, somebody showed a chamara, somebody scattered flowers. But these details are verification of the fact, or you could say confirmation of the fact that Srimad Bhagavatam is not just mythology, like many individuals in the world believe, but it is history. So as Gauriya Vaishnavas especially, we have firm faith that Srimad Bhagavatam is history, Puranam, it's history, Itihasa. So this is also evidenced by the fact that when we read the translations which is gifted to us by Srila Prabhupada and his devotees, so many details. And then of course I ask myself, could this just be mythology? And we also see so many predictions in Srimad Bhagavatam that were made thousands of years ago, but we see that they are so much more applicable now, and we see their relevance now. So that being said, I was hoping that together we could embrace a few thoughts of Srimad Bhagavatam, that few of them were of how, also building up on what His Holiness Krishna Chaitanya Maharaj said, the power of imagination. That's one aspect I thought we could touch upon today. The next would be power of wonder, and also the aspect of humble service. So firstly, the power of imagination. And yesterday His Holiness Krishna Chaitanya Maharaj was mentioning this point. Use your imagination. And if you really see the descriptions in these parts of Srimad Bhagavatam, you can really use your imagination because of the details that are given. If I look back at the previous texts, the roads were perfumed with liquid from the elephants' foreheads. And then the colorful flags were swaying in the air, the golden gateways, full water pots, and the halls were latticed, windows drifted incense. So it's so beautiful that such details are given in Srimad Bhagavatam, and it's such a beautiful meditation. And it reminds me of Canto 4 of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Narada Muni actually gives tips and encourages Dhruva Maharaj to meditate. So in that, Narada Muni very carefully instructs Dhruva Maharaj how he can go into deep meditation. And Canto 4 says, Pranata Ashrayanam, that once we meditate upon the Lord, we can take shelter of the Lord. So the Lord, of course, we also know that one of the 10 subject matters of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 10th final Samam Bonam, is Krishna is the Samam Bonam, the ultimate shelter. And we see that even Narada Muni, when he was speaking with Dhruva Maharaj and encouraging him and instructing him how to meditate upon the Lord, Pranata Ashrayanam, that through the meditation we take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then I was thinking of how through this meditation we can really take shelter. And we also know that, of course, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, that's also a very important aspect of our devotional, limbs of devotional service. So we can really use our imagination in Krishna consciousness and in a way, in our mind, live those pastimes and really reside in Vrindavan, be in Vrindavan consciousness. And of course, in this description, if you see in text 34 and 35, the queens are mentioned and how they ran to the balcony to see Krishna and how they left everything they were doing. They left their husbands in bed but ran. And this actually reminded me of the Rasa Leela, isn't it? That the Rasa Leela also has a similar feeling, that the gopis, they just leave whatever they were doing and they just run on when Krishna plays the flute. And then I came to the realization that Krishna is such a heartthrob. You know, like we have this saying in the modern world that the person is a heartthrob, that the person is such a celebrity that everybody is just like, wow, and they are just dazed and amazed by this personality, and they run towards him, forgetting everything else. They leave whatever they're doing. They spend trillions to go see this person. And Krishna is such a heartthrob because he has such an effect on his devotees that whether it's in Indraprastha, in Dwarka, or it's in Vrindavan, this is Krishna's effect. That's the Krishna effect, you could say. That whatever you're doing, you just somehow just leave everything and just surrender. And and when I came to this thought process, I was thinking, wow, how rigid my heart must be that I'm not attracted by this heartthrob. There is some attraction, but I don't feel like I want to leave everything and just be there with Krishna. So a very nice point for me to reflect on that. Why is the heartthrob not throbbing my heart? So that's just something I was thinking about, Krishna's quality of being a heartthrob. And another factor which really struck me was the queens who came to the balcony to see Krishna. They were struck by wonder on the good fortune of the wives of Mukunda, because they said they were like stars accompanying the moon. And the women exclaimed, "What have these ladies done so that the best of men bestows upon their eyes the joy of his generous smiles and playful sidelong glances?" So it's really a sense of wonder. What have they done? You know, that's really a sense of wonder. And what I could really discern, that there is no competition, like, oh, why are they the one? That was not the spirit. Like, how can they be the one? They're not worthy of it. That was not the spirit. The spirit was, wow, what good fortune they have, that these ladies can be bestowed by the glances of the Lord. So that also reflects the Vaikuntha attitude. I was just reading something on Vaishnava etiquette, and Prabhupada and also His Holiness Bhakti Maharaj, he was emphasizing on this point of the Vaikuntha attitude. And what is the Vaikuntha attitude essentially? It is the attitude of loving reciprocation between each other. That in Krishna consciousness, the very spirit is that when we see others progressing on the path of Krishna consciousness, it is an inspiration for us to be inspired to progress and advance. And this is also reflected by the queens. They were so much enamored and so taken aback by the good fortune of the wives of the Lord. And this is also, I thought, a take-home lessons. And of course, when I speak this, I feel like we have such an advanced audience. You probably all already know this. But then it's also nice for me personally to reflect and remind myself of this quality. Because I was listening to a lecture of His Holiness Bhakti Vigyan Goswami Maharaj recently, and he was making this point that the conditioned living entity, we have a tendency to measure everything. He was saying that we try to, and he was quoting Bhakti Vinod Thakur, I will see, Miyate. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur quotes this. Anyway, I forgot. It was the word Miyate was very important. Miyate, something Maya. I forgot the middle part, which was also very essential. Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj was quoting Bhakti Vinod Thakur that the word Miyate means to measure, and Maya is Maya. So basically, he was making this point that the conditioned living entity has this propensity to measure everything. So, and I was reflecting on this, and he made this point of how we try to get close to something or somebody only to measure. Have you thought of it ever? Like really reflect on it. That we, of course you are very advanced Vaishnavas, but if I really look at myself, if I want to get close to a person or get close to even nature, whatever, I want to understand, but mostly I want to measure. Because I'm a conditioned living entity, I want to measure things. And that's also sometimes our propensity when we try to get close to devotees, when we try to get close to Krishna, to Srimad Bhagavatam. We want to measure. But we know our philosophy, Achinta Peda Bhed. It's inconceivable, different and non-different. How much more confused can you be? So how much more inconceivable can this be? So our the whole philosophy, Jai Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Anita Vishakha Devi Ki, Jai Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani Ki, Shri Shri Gaurnathaya Ki, Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki. So that's the beauty of our Krishna conscious culture, that is to realize that it is so immeasurable. But that is our propensity, that we want to measure everything, and it is, the analogy is given that the teaspoon is trying to measure the ocean. How successful do you think a teaspoon would be when it tries to measure the ocean? It will get there someday after lifetimes and lifetimes, several lifetimes. But the whole importance of this analogy is that it is so useless. Why do it? And the culture, Vedic culture, is that of acceptability, whereas the modern scientific materialistic culture is that to measure. So if you really analyze, we are a culture of pramanam, we put our faith there, and we try to accept what is given by our disciplic succession, by the authority which has ratified the knowledge. Whereas the so-called scientific culture is a culture of measuring, and that is the difference. And I was also thinking of highlighting this point, because if you look at the translation and purport now, it is so rich with culture. And this is what the Vedic culture is, because we see here how a guest should be received. That's what these verses are portraying. And a very nice point Swayam Bhagavan, His Holiness Swayam Bhagavan Keshav Maharaj makes, that the Shastra is living. That the Shastra is not just theory, the Shastra is living. That means you can learn from the Shastra, you can adopt the Shastra. So that means when we are referring to this cultural aspect of Srimad Bhagavatam, how to receive a guest and how to honor the Lord, it is something we can also meditate. How do we adopt this in our daily life? That's a very important aspect. And we see that deity worship is actually a very important and very useful opportunity we have to exercise what we learn, this aspect of Srimad Bhagavatam, this aspect of culture, where Krishna is treated as the guest and we offer our loving reciprocation, loving service through adorning him, through offering fragrant items to him, to showering him. So this is quite important, that Shastra is living, and Srimad Bhagavatam, when it talks about these aspects of culture, about how to welcome the Lord, how to deal with devotees, we can definitely meditate upon how we can embrace this in our day-to-day activities. So I really urge all of us to meditate that when there are these descriptions of the Lord passing through, flowers being scattered, so it not just, and the incense, the sandalwood paste, so not just taking it as, oh, putting it on a pedestal, like, oh yeah, it's something very amazing that used to happen, but in our community try to see how we can adopt this, because as Gauriya Vaishnavas we have a responsibility, a legacy to continue actually. And if you really see that Gauriya Vaishnava, the legacy is so rich, from serving of prasadam to how you receive guests, all of it is quite rich. For example, in the Gauriya Vaishnava culture, we were discussing with Mother Jayabhadra yesterday, there's a whole pattern of how you serve prasadam. First the bitter, and then the rice, then the liquids, then the dry. And then also how you receive a guest. I remember a few months ago, His Grace Kripa Prabhu and Her Grace Mother Guru Charana Padma, they were visiting the Zurich temple. I'm from Zurich. So we were receiving them at the Zurich temple, so we had a very loud Kirtan when the car arrived. We garlanded them and we were throwing flower petals, and then we gave them chandan on the head, the sandalwood paste, maha from the deities. And then Kripa Prabhu said, wow, this is like the early days. And that made me really question that this rich culture is the younger generation, or as a community, as the movement is progressing, are we making it a point to continue? Because it's rich heritage, and it may seem like, what's the point, what's the use? But I would really like to remind us of the point of samskaras, impressions. So samskaras, of course we have an understanding of samskaras, that garbhadana samskara, etc. But rituals, things that you do on your daily basis, or things that you do, they are actually creating an impression, and hence they are also samskaras. So for example, why do we mark our body with tilak every day in 12 places? It's a samskara. We create these impressions to be deeply impressioned that our body is a temple of the Lord. Our body is a property of the Lord. So similarly, these samskaras, when we receive guest, Atiti Deva Bhava, when we receive the guest as equivalent to the demigods, as equivalent as God with the service attitude, it is creating an impression of respect. Then imagine if you receive a devotee like this, what would be your meditation and relationship with that devotee going into the future? So the Vedic culture is really a culture of respect. And of course, I'm not proposing that we go to this extreme end where we're not human, that everything is so transcendental that we are just like scared and in awe of everything. Not that extreme, but always reminding ourselves that we are practical, we are logical, but at the same time to not lose the cultural heritage that we have from Gauriya Vaishnava history. Because if you read Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's so rich. And I feel like it's a responsibility we have, and I don't want to sound as a very traditional person, but we have a tradition to continue. It's very nice that each of us, we can take one aspect from our culture and we can make it our personal responsibility to continue. So personally we can think, okay, what is one tradition from our Gauriya Vaishnava culture that I would like to continue? And then you pass it on to your kids, to your community, and it becomes a very culturally rich legacy which we continue. So these were some thoughts, and but at the same time, actually, here Krishna is there with his queens, and there's so much opulence. But when we have Shri Radha Gopinath here, I always like to think of, I don't know, Gopinath reminds me of the sweet simplicity of the Lord. He's Gopinath, he is the protector of the gopis. He's the gopis' man. So it reminds me of Vrindavan. And I was thinking of this aspect of the simplicity of Krishna's beauty. That's also something we could think of, that all of these grandeur that is there, all of these grand arrangements, all these beautiful things, they don't add to Krishna's beauty. That's something we have to always think. And especially also personally, I have the very good fortune of serving as a pujari in the New Jagannath Puri Krishna Temple, Zurich. And few weeks ago, we had His Grace Mukunda Datta Prabhu here with us, and then he was telling me, always remember, and he was supervising me. I invited him to just supervise me while I was dressing the deities. And in New Jagannath, in Zurich Temple, we have Shri Shri Gaurnitai and Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani. And I was dressing Shri Shri Gaurnitai that day. And he said that always remember that when you are dressing, you're not enhancing Krishna's beauty. Actually, Krishna's beauty is enhancing the paraphernalia. So just a very nice meditation when we go through Srimad Bhagavatam, regardless of whether or not you are a pujari or you would like to be or whatever, you can always meditate on this point that even in the most simple arrangements, Krishna is the most beautiful. He's the all-attractive. Therefore, Krishna is the all-attractive. And we can meditate on how, for example, I think of this point of how Brahma, when he saw Krishna, he was just thinking, how can this be my Lord? Look at me, I have so many heads, he has only one head. And he was thinking, how can he be my Lord? He holds yogurt and sweet rice in his left hand. Because it was, Brahma was so much into vidhi, and left hand is supposed to be impure. And how does God not know this? And Krishna, knowing Brahma's inner dilemma, intentionally holds the yogurt and rice in his left hand. Krishna is also nice, like if you are thinking like this, he is going to let you think like this and enhance that challenging attitude. So that's what Krishna was doing with Brahma, that he was letting him think like this, and that's what Brahma was thinking, that how can my Lord be so simple, but then later, after being put to his place, what does Brahma do? He actually he glorifies Krishna's simplicity. So, and actually in trying to glorify Krishna's simplicity, he's glorifying Krishna's humility. Like Krishna, when he is in Vrindavan, when he is in Braj, what does he do? He's just wearing this simple Vaijayanti mala, and he's hanging out with cowherd boys with just wearing this yellow dhoti, and mostly wearing nothing on the chest, and bare-bodied. He's running around without shoes, just a simple turban and a peacock feather on his head. And that's Krishna, and they say Krishna loves to be in Braj. I'm sure he loves to also be in Braj in the way he is, in that simplicity. And it is this simplicity which reflects Krishna's humility, that Krishna is just a humble cowherd boy. That's how he is. And for us it's a very nice meditation to really contrast this when we go through Srimad Bhagavatam and the grand description, to realize that Krishna is so inherently beautiful, whether he's a simple Braj boy or here with all his queens and so majestic, he's still very beautiful. And there is this very nice bhajan by, I believe it's Sanatan Goswami, Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. I don't know if anyone of you knows about it, this bhajan, where Sanatan Goswami, if I'm correct, urges his mind and urges, may my mind be like a bee and be attracted to the honey, the nectar of the lotus feet of the Lord. And I felt like that could be a very nice meditation, because even Brahma, he prays, he offers all these prayers to the Lord to be able to take shelter of the lotus feet. And as we discussed before, that pranata ashrayanam. So we can also pray that through this meditation, may our mind actually take shelter, ashray. May Krishna be our only shelter. May our mind take the shelter of his lotus feet, which is as calming as millions of lotuses. So these were some thoughts I thought of reminding myself of, and thereby also sharing with you, because I could think of nothing else to actually meditate upon. These are very rich details of Srimad Bhagavatam. So just a few thoughts of how we can deeply absorb ourselves in Srimad Bhagavatam even when we're going through these very detailed parts where maybe Srila Prabhupada doesn't give a very elaborate philosophical purport. So we can really be absorbed. And a few weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks or maybe 1 week ago, I was at the Swiss Bhakti retreat. And I would also like to take this chance to invite each of you to the Swiss Bhakti retreat. It happens in the summer every year, where Keshav Maharaj was also speaking about of this point of absorption, how it is so important. So let us all be absorbed. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. So in the assembly we have some very advanced Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. So if anyone would like to share something, any question or add something, otherwise we go on to the next nectar of breakfast.
About the reception, I was thinking, maybe you're not aware of it, but you were announced on email that you are giving a class, and Vishal and his wife, they're cooking a special Northern Indian breakfast for this occasion, and he invited us, please all come and relish this nectar, and he used this verse to announce you. It's Srimad Bhagavatam 6.3.24. I'll read the translation. Therefore, it should be understood that one is easily relieved from all sinful reactions by chanting the holy name of the Lord and chanting of his qualities and activities. This is the only process recommended for relief from sinful reactions. Even if one chants the holy name of the Lord with improper pronunciation, he will achieve relief from material bondage if he chants without offenses. Ajamil, for example, was extremely sinful, but while dying, he merely chanted the holy name, and although calling his son, he achieved complete liberation because he remembered the name of Narayan. So, I mean, he's asking for encouragement to be in the Bhagavatam class. And I was thinking about the imagination, because imagination basically it comes forth from proper hearing. Because if you hear only the words and the meaning, then it just goes in and out. But if you actually let it enter, then the imagination is the tool, I think, to actually transport you to what you're reading, in this case, to Indraprastha. Because then Krishna's coming from Dwarka, there it was a whole situation just together. Now he's coming into Indraprastha. Then there is a whole reception. And I remember in the old days we used to do these receptions very much, even for every morning program. We would go and get Bhagavan Maharaj with the Kirtan, and we would come down, and then we had Guru Puja and greeting the deities. It was always very exciting, somehow, because we were disappointed maybe that it happened. I remember with Bhakti Charu Swami also we were doing that, and I remember the cook. He was a disciple of Maharaj, but he was cooking at the time, the evening offering. So he ran to greet Maharaj with the Kirtan. Then I was the head pujari, and I was upset with him because his offering was late. Then we went to complain to Bhakti Charu Swami, he just ran off to greet you and he forgot about Krishna that he has. But then actually later that devotee, he told me that Maharaj said yes. He said what you did was proper, because if the devotee arrives, you should come and greet him. And then Krishna is accepting that. But he said, don't do it again. Because he didn't want to be the reason So Bhakti Charuswami, he didn't want to be the reason for Krishna to have his offering late. So I thought it was this beautiful sentiment of the offering the glorification and the greetings, and then the humility of the reception of the one that is receiving it. Also, it's very delicate in this culture of Vaishnavism. So it's very nice that because you are a whole new generation, so you don't have to suffer from our disappointments. You could just re-establish all this nice culture. It's very nice.
Thank you very much, Nikunjabhasini. And just share some thoughts. So, yeah, thank you very much for sharing. Sharina Prabhu ki jai, Radhadesh Dham ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. So it's very powerful, that verse on the holy name. And I think the holy name being our only hope. And I was just reflecting on what you were saying, that this imagination hearing. And I always feel like Shravanam, Kirtanam, it's also said that you hear, you chant, Smaranam, and through this hearing and chanting, the remembrance comes. So it's in that step, in that way, it's only when you fill yourself with something are you able to pour, like they say. And similarly, when, like you said, hearing is so important. And it is this hearing which then becomes the tool, and this remembrance naturally comes. And I think this devotee took Shakshat Dvaritvena very seriously when he ran. But yeah, thank you for sharing and for giving the blessings that also that the future generation can continue this culture of respecting and worshipping devotees. And oh yes, one thing actually Bhaktivigyan Maharaj was mentioning, I will very quickly, not to take much of your time, mention it, that in the Vedic culture, you worship everything. And he was deriving it from the point that when you're humble before anything, everything. You know, and for me, it was such a simple point. I was listening to it yesterday, and it deeply touched me. Because I feel, before devotees I have to be humble, before Guru Maharaj I have to be... No, you have to be humble before anything, actually. And therefore, in the Vedic culture, Maharaj was drawing this example. If you see, let's say in our day-to-day, individuals who don't practice Krishna consciousness, when they play an instrument, they show off, right? This is my skill, this is my talent. But in the Vedic culture, before you play an instrument, you pay obeisance to it. So that's a culture, actually, we are born into, or we are gifted with in Krishna consciousness, that we propagate this and also continue with it. Thank you. Yes, Madhya.
I really like this point of measuring, how the modern culture is measuring. And then I thought in this, like we have so much, especially now, we have so much videos and pictures and so many things which are kind of, you don't imagine, but actually you see something which is done. It's like a measurement of somebody else, and then you kind of, this is what's stuck in your head. So then I was thinking, this is can be kind of impetus. No, the opposite of that, actually, like a limiting media for our imagination. It's just the thought.
Thank you for sharing. It's a very valuable point you're making, because in Srimad Bhagavatam it is said, Jnane prayasa udapasya namanta eva, I think, no? That actually the one who is not trying to, speculate, use this mind and intellectual skills to understand Krishna is the one who has any chance to understand Krishna. That's the whole beginning point, that we don't try to think we can do it. And also Keshav Maharaj once in his lecture was making this point that once a devotee went on this retreat, I think it was in Radhadesh when he was last time here, he was making this point, that once he was in this retreat, his friend, where it was Mauna Vrata, everyone was supposed to be silent. And then this friend of his was sharing with him, I realized how judgmental I am. Because although I was not talking with anybody, nobody was talking with anybody, I already had a perception of this person is like this just by watching them. So that's how limiting we can be, actually. And that's how much we try to measure. So yeah, thank you. So maybe we just take this last point. Yes. Thank you very much for taking the call. Oh, we have 10 minutes. That's a lot of time. Okay. We are on time. We have time. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for your nice class.
The mic is coming. Yes.
Thank you for your wonderful class. Nice to see you again. Hare Krishna. So, I like the point you made about, I like a lot of points, but let's focus on this one. You said we have to meditate on the beauty of Krishna. And then you were talking about the cowboy, Brahma Vimohan Leela, rice in the left hand. It's a nice point. Prabhupada, and some might think, why don't we see Krishna in this coward boy form on the altar? You see? And I like the point Prabhupada made. He said for the pujaris, it's very important that in Pancharatrika, correct me if I'm wrong, Nikunjavasini Mataji, but he said, or he instructed us to dress the deities in opulence. In opulence, and why? Because, and I also spoke to Mukunda Dutt, and he explained to me, he said, it's only in this form, the opulence, the Ashwarya realm, we can relate to Krishna. We can't relate to Krishna as the gopis do in the Madhurya ras. That's too difficult for us. And you give the example, but because Brahma, in Brahma Vimohan Leela, he didn't recognize Krishna as a coward boy, the simple boy, rice in the left hand, no morals, no etiquettes. But when the calves and the coward boys, when they transformed into Vishnu forms, the Ashwarya, right? Only then did he recognize Krishna, the coward boy, as Krishna. So we can't relate to it, and that's why we dressed him in a super opulence form. That's what I wanted to add.
Yeah, thank you for sharing a very significant point. Yeah, that is true. And also we see, like for example, towards the beginning I was mentioning that Krishna is a heartthrob, but he doesn't have the same effect on me. So of course, at least in my personal life, I can see that I'm not there yet. And also I think, I always feel that deity worship and chanting of the holy name are very much related. And unless I am in a position where I am so thirsty to chant more and more, I will not understand Krishna in Braj, actually. That's at least my personal speculation, that unless and until I am so deeply absorbed in understanding, or not understanding, but chanting the holy name, Vrindavan is very far from me. And therefore, how can I like you said, that we dress Krishna in this very kingly way, in this very opulent way, because Prabhupada also said how deity worship is a very significant preaching. That's why we offer the best to Krishna and we dress him in this opulent way, because when we have visitors and individuals coming in, they just go, wow.
Yes.
So they are just so attracted and enamored by Krishna's beauty. So that's also one of the things that we have also always mindful of while in deity worship, how we are also, as pujaris, we are also preachers. So, and yeah.
But there's hope. Gauranga in Gaura Lila, we live in Gaura Lila.
Yes.
And they say, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, the holy name includes everything.
Yes.
Like this, and there's hope.
Yeah, there is hope for the hopeless, like they say, hope against hope. Hare Krishna.
It's not that Krishna is not opulent in Vrindavan.
Yes.
He's very opulent in Vrindavan.
Yes.
Only sweetness over his sweetness is even more than his opulence there.
Thank
so
you
it's
very much.
we say he's very simple, but at the same time he's very opulent in Vrindavan.
Yes.
But his sweetness covers that opulence.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. A very significant reminder.
And I was thinking of in the Drumna Maharaj, he told us a story that when Yasoda wakes up Krishna, then she wants to dress him. So she gets out the pants and the mukut and all the jewels and everything, and she makes Krishna very beautiful.
Yeah.
Then the cowherd boys, they come and get him to go to the forest, and they said, "What do you look like?" And they said, "What are you going to do with all these things in the forest?" So they take it all off, and they take Krishna, and then they dress him with the flowers from the forest and the peacock feathers, like you were describing. So yes, in one sense, Krishna is all.
Yeah.
And that's, we should let this imagination come and see Krishna in all these different forms. And yes, in our level of respect, it will be there, and the respect for the holy name, because they're non-different.
Yeah, and I was just having this thought. One thing I often think about is that, sometimes I think, why couldn't I have a much more simple God? Because Krishna is so complex, and he could just be simple and be like, I don't know, not, stealing the dress of the gopis, or sometimes I really think, and the way Krishna also works, he's Tribhanga, he's bent. And somehow, in the life of a devotee, forgive me, he can be crooked, like how he really guides your life. And sometimes you can be thinking, oh, why can't he be simple? But this is such an humbling moment where Krishna makes you realize you can't measure him. Like if I really reflect on what we're discussing now, is a very reflection of the fact that Krishna is so immeasurable. That's his beauty, that's one of his qualities, that he's wider than the widest, brighter than the brightest. He's Achintya. And just one last example I would leave all of us with, that once I heard the story first from His Holiness Bhakti Chau Maharaj, that once Prabhupada was asked, he was challenged, that can your God create a rock which he cannot lift? Prabhupada said, yes. Then how is he a God? Like if he can create something which he cannot do. Then Prabhupada apparently said that Krishna can create a rock which he cannot lift, and then he would lift it and show you whether he can. So that's the Achintya aspect of Krishna, that he's so inconceivable. And that's why we realize that we are so small. We are so small. And that should be our impetus to be very humble. Radhapi suniche na tarurapi saishnana amanina mana dena kirtaniya sadahari. So we try, endeavor very hard, and I keep saying last point, but this is really the last thing I would say, because Shastra is so rich, and this Hare Katha is so rich because it leaves such a blueprint in the heart. And Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj was saying that, it's so important to get rid of this ego, because sometimes we can think, oh, I have to be this, I have to be that, I have to protect myself. A little bit ego is nice, isn't it? We always think, a little bit ego is nice. But he was just thinking that he was saying that we have to be thoroughly humble to be able to chant the holy name. We have to be thoroughly humble before Krishna. And of course later I asked His Holiness Krishna Chaitanya Maharaj this question, that, if I look at myself, I think, yes, I do endeavor to protect myself. And I do think that, I want to have a little bit ego. To be honest, I do think like that. And why? Sometimes I think, to protect myself, etc. And Maharaj was kind of drawing this example, how we have to be, for our service, it's okay, Like, for example, Prabhupada also had, he was sometimes not humble externally. Why? Because for his service as a spiritual master and the founder of Acharya. So actually being in front of Krishna is a very, very humbling process, because it really makes you realize, just the way if you read Srimad Bhagavatam, just if you see how Krishna is, and the very fact that he himself is crooked, it really makes you understand that you cannot understand him. And the only way to really be Krishna conscious that way is through love. You can only love him for what he is. You can't understand him. And of course it is said that to love you have to understand, but for that you have to pray. So it's very complicated, the spiritual life. They tell you it's easy, but it's actually not. I'm joking, but you understand that Krishna is so complex, but to understand him we have to love him, but to love him we have to understand him, and to understand him we have to pray. So that's how it goes. And pray to devotees, pray to the Lord. Okay, Srila Prabhupada.
That's what Sachinandan Swami said last verse. If you really want to know Krishna, whatever, just try to love him. He told Kishore Maharaj asked a question, but I forgot that one.
Yeah.
How are you? How come you are so long in this mood that's still so innocent? Something like that.
Yeah.
He said, because I love Krishna, what we have to do is we have to try to love Krishna.
Krishna Prema.
Yeah.
Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Shri Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.